It's the Rant Network yet again. And you hear this ominous music behind you. You hear this ominous music that we have in the background. That, ladies and gentlemen, is the ominous feeling that Americans felt last week knowing that China had a balloon floating across the United States. That ominous feeling of will we shoot it down? What are they taking pictures of? What are they doing up there? How long has it been there? And in typical media format, in a typical fashion, we have to blame. And for some reason, yet again, media suspects that, oh, this has happened before, even during Donald Trump's administration, which turned out to be, again, false. Again, it had to be a little bit of smoke and mirrors. The sad part is, Stuart, and I know this is where I'm going to let you go off on, is Joe Biden has consistently been on the wrong side of history when it comes up to international affairs. And here, yet again, the Biden administration proved they are more full of hot air than anything else.
Oh, David, you had to grab my one good comment. Listen, let's start it off. We've talked about Joe Biden and the Biden administration being on the wrong side of history. And Joe Biden himself has been on the wrong side of history for 40 years. In fact, his ballots have always picked the wrong decision. And the most famous wrong decision that we all talk about was he voted with Obama not to take out Osama bin Laden, which every American in the United States openly agreed that that was the right decision. Let's talk about Afghanistan. All right, you want to say he made the right decision? Okay, can you explain to me how? No. Let's talk about this balloon, because I think the Biden White House is full of hot air. In fact, I think they are so confused, it's no different than Biden's, I would say, integrity check. His coherent ability to discuss anything, it's disgusting. If you watched the Grammys last night, Jill Biden was giving away an award because the Bidens have no more base. The decision made about this balloon. Now, what was this balloon? First of all, David, before it got into the United States, it crossed the Pacific Ocean. In crossing the Pacific Ocean, it went through Canada.
Correct.
All right. All right. So here you go. You have an object traveling at 65,000 feet. We already know that most planes travel between 35 and 45, and only military can get up to that 50,000 foot above area, and barely at that. So you have this object. Now, that object is the size of 3 yellow buses. We all know what a yellow bus is, right? Can you imagine a balloon that's 3 times the size of a bus? This is massive. And it's got electronics attached to it. Now, a spokesperson for Chinese ministry, right, says this was a civilian object.
Bullshit. Bullshit. Sorry.
But Beijing also admits there's balloons spotted over Latin America as well. So the question is, are these spy satellites? Are they testing whether or not they can deliver a payload over multiple countries, quote, softly? Are they trying to get information? Now, I don't really believe that grabbing pictures of a silo is going to give the Chinese any more information that they don't already gather from their spies on the ground, that people from Congress give them openly, that are kicked off the intelligence committee, or they have satellites that are getting pictures on their own. But what's amazing is all of a sudden we shoot one out of the sky and China is very upset. Now, why did they shoot it over South Carolina and not over the heartland? I don't know.
No, they
Could
shot
they
it over
do?
the Atlantic. They shot it over the Atlantic, and
No, they
pieces of it
shot
fell. They shot pieces of it fell into the Carolinas.
right because there's something called wind. But they should have
Oh,
shot it over the minute it hit U.S. airspace. In fact,
before it
Canada,
hit, before it
Canada,
even hit.
right,
Yeah.
Canada should have taken it out once it started going over its sovereign land. But it did go over Alaska, I believe, for a brief moment. But again, this wasn't announced to the American public In fact, the Biden White House says if you want to go and track it, go look out your window. I mean, that's just
It,
bananas.
well, it apparently was worse because the Biden administration knew about it and sat on it for days before they actually did anything about it.
Now, just so we can get this, fair, is the U.S. created in 2019 its own covert, long-dwelling, stratospheric architecture devices to locate and track drug traffickers. So they launched about 25 surveillance balloons in South Dakota to demonstrate this, right? So again, these balloons are not just for spying, they're also for delivering payloads. You can deliver an EMP payload through a 3-time balloon bus contraption. You can deliver a biological like COVID. There we go. We're going to get barred again, David. We mentioned COVID. You can deliver anything through these sorts of payloads. Do we remember the Hindenburg? The Germans wanted a fleet of Zephyrs to drop bombs all over the world. Sounds kind of eerily familiar. But for whatever reason, the Biden government didn't want to go and do what it should have done. I don't think there's very many Americans that would say he did the right thing yet again. I don't know what it's going to take for the media to call this White House out as being the most corrupt in U.S. political history.
Well,
Like, it's just
that's not
wrong.
going to happen. You know that's not going to happen, Stuart. There's look the part of the thing that is fascinating, and you brought up a lot of points here. First of all, you're right. Canada should have shut down the balloon. But we know that when it comes to defense measures, and especially when it comes to China, if the United States sneezes, Canada catches a cold. Canada cannot respond on that scale without U.S. consent. And knowing Trudeau and his lovey-dovey affair with Obama, and then of course with Biden, he's not doing squat. And Biden told Trudeau probably don't do anything. Don't do anything. Let's not rattle the Chinese cages. And that's the problem. Donald Trump confronted China head on about many different things and was able to take back what a lot of China has stolen and tried to do and stood up to China. And you have a bunch of American economists and you have a bunch of American politicians who are afraid, Stuart, to challenge China in any way, shape, or form. Okay, just like they're afraid to challenge Russia, they're afraid to challenge North Korea, they're afraid to challenge China. China is the 2 million pound gorilla that nobody wants to go up against. And
Well, I mean, it's a £2 million or $2 million gorilla. Sorry,
listen,
David.
it doesn't matter, but either way, the United States is afraid to confront China on anything. And so they continue to get away with a lot of things, propaganda statements. Like, come on, you're telling me that's a weather balloon? You're telling me that's a science balloon? Give me
Civilian.
civilian balloon. It's a bloody bunch of bull. And by the way, civilian is code for government controlled in China. So, but to me, it once again shows the lack of intestinal fortitude by your government and my government. You have a
David, I want to remind you of something. This is before we were born. Does anyone remember in history the U-2 spy planes
yes, I
that the
do.
America
Yes,
and in
I know.
1960 was
Yes,
shot
yes,
down by the Soviet
yes,
Union,
yes,
which
and keep
which actually started the confrontation between Russia and the United States and took it on steroids post World War II.
but
Not that
keep
there
in
wasn't issues before that.
but keep in mind, countries spy on countries. Let's not be naive. The United States spies on its allies and its enemies. China spies on everybody. Russia spies on everybody. Everybody spies on everybody. You would be an idiot not to spy. Okay. The thing is that this is happening, and there is a game. But when it's this overt, and you need to show, as the United States, a little bit of strength to a country that is trying to take away your power. I mean, think about it. China is trying to supplant the United States as a superpower, not Russia,
Yep.
the United States, because there's an alliance with China, Iran, North Korea. So there is that alliance, but there is no alliance with the United States. And in when Nixon tried to create a relationship with China, like he knew what was at stake. He knew what was coming. You also have Trump, who also looked at China and said, "We need China, yes, but we can't have China rape and pillage the United States." So maybe his methods were a little rough and aggressive. And listen, none of us here on this rant network love Donald Trump, but he did do the right thing when it came to China. Unfortunately, Biden has completely undone everything. We saw how poorly he's handled Afghanistan. We've seen how poorly he's handled his relationship in Saudi Arabia. He's begged Venezuela for oil. He is, and it goes back to the Obama administration. They were more excited about opening up Cuba and relationships with Iran and not looking at the real enemy, and that is China, Russia, North Korea, Iran. They ignored it. And the Biden administration that has taken on a bunch of old Obama people have continued the same track towards, fear. They're talking about war. I got news for you. The United States is afraid to go to war. I get it. But doing nothing will lead to a more catastrophic result than doing
Yep.
something.
Yep. I agree. I agree, David.
And Joe Biden's administration, Stuart, has it, and I said I took away your only joke, that it's full of hot air. I mean, military specialists, and I got to tell you, I watched CNN and Fox relatively equally in the last few days, and in both media, we're going after the Biden administration, saying, "What are you waiting for?"
Well, hang on a second. Are those the same 51 experts that said the Biden laptops were nonsense?
No,
Listen,
Stuart. No, let's not mix. Let's not mix this up. The reality here is that, listen, no, because the left-leaning liberal media, we understand, has a love affair for the Democrats and a hate for the Republicans. We know that. But when it's come to this balloon affair, they're not in. There was palpable fear. Now, one comment I heard was, "Oh, we're afraid to blow it up because we didn't know what would happen on American soil." Guys, before it came to the United States, you knew what you could do. Before it hit Canada, you knew what you could do. Alaska, if I remember correctly, is US soil. And so it had to travel over Alaska to get to Canada, to get to the United States.
Yep.
If you're telling me that you couldn't shoot it before it got to Alaska, something's not right. And where's NORAD? And where is all this defense that you were promising? It's all lies. And the Biden administration is sitting there waiting? What? To appease whom? Because if he's trying to get votes out of this, I can't see it. You?
David, I don't know what the end game is. All we know is every time the Democrats say the Republicans are this, it's really that's what they are. And we're going to get to wrap this up real quick. But what do I mean by that? They say there's Russian collusion. Well, we now know the Democrats are compromised. We know there's Chinese collusion. Well, it's the Democrats that are compromised. So at the end of the day, it's my belief that it's better to call someone else the liar and cheater than it is for them to just get blamed for it. It's much easier. It wasn't me, it was you. That's what they do. It's a blame game.
I get it.
I sat and I watched these Grammys painstakingly, and the nausea on, this is Jill Biden and her saying on how. Listen, here is the bottom line. Politics have screwed up our country and yours. That's the bottom line. I don't care what your sexual orientation is. I don't care what your political orientation is. I don't care what color you are. I don't care what race you are, what country you are. At the bottom line, a sovereign nation needs to defend itself. We have no border, okay? We have no border over our skies. There is no limit. This government is a broken government. The flag is hanging upside down. And on that note, David, I'll give you the last 30 seconds.
Listen, the bottom line is, Stuart, I can't disagree. I have to say, you're totally on. You're absolutely right. And if the United States if this is what the United States and Canada do, then what's next?
I think we need to start a program, hang your flag upside down. I think that's exactly what needs to happen. The country is upside down. You must hang your flag upside down. Just so you know, you should look that up. Anyways, we're out of our quarter hour, guys. We're done. David, it's time for us to say we'll see you next Wednesday live.
We'll see you Wednesday, folks, noon Eastern. Download us on all the podcasts. Take care, everyone.